Hello, this video is all about motorcycle oil for your engine. Let's get into it.
RevelatorAlf.
Now, motorcycle oil for your engine. Let's just talk in general terms about all motorcycles, but I ride a Harley Davidson. This is Harley Davidson oil, engine oil, so I'm going to be kind of specifying this quite a lot, but the principles apply to all motorcycles. Now, in truth, I've never really been a slave to a particular brand of engine oil or a particular grade. Let's say as long as the oil specification matched what the engine manufacturer wanted me to put in there, that's all that matters. So let's say, for example, Harley Davidson. For my Harley Davidson, I've got in there, look, it all says their owner's manual, and it says it gives me a particular engine type that I can use or that they recommend. So for example, they recommend this 360, a 20 weight 50 oil for my engine, and it's going to give me good all-round performance through different temperature ranges. Okay, I don't know exactly what that means. There is another type of engine oil called Syn 3, and that's a fully synthetic oil, and it's the same weight rating, but it's supposed to be formulated to operate better at cold temperatures. Okay, still don't really know what all that means either. There are other oils which are just a single grade. So this is what they call a multi-grade oil. So it operates at a big temperature variation. Whereas there are two other engine oils, which is a 50 grade or a 60 grade. And those are usually for hotter temperatures. So I suppose, first of all, before you start saying religiously that you've got to stick to a particular oil, you need to look at your owner's manual of your particular bike, of course, of your engine. Then you need to see what they recommend in the temperatures at which you are riding. Now, the reason why they developed multi-grade oils many years ago was it was to stop people having to put a winter weight oil or a summer weight oil. So one that would perform better in the winter, whereas another one would perform better in the summer. Now you've got one oil that worked well all year round in most temperatures around the world. Okay, before I come in my glasses. Now, what does an engine oil actually do? Well, you know, for your motorcycle, your car, your tractor, your lorry, whatever it is, the engine oil acts to lubricate, doesn't it? It kind of reduces friction between all the moving parts in the engine, thus reducing the amount of heat generated. It aids in the cooling of the engine as well. It dissipates heat from around the engine, hot spots as well. So as the oil is constantly moving around, it actually takes heat away from certain areas. You know, so there's lots of things like that. It also helps in the combustion process as well, where your cylinders are really hot, so it helps in the cooling of the cylinders as well. So there's lots of reasons why you have an engine oil. But do you have to be so religious in sticking to a particular brand or even to a particular weight? Now, these numbers, what they mean is that the W stands for winter. Okay, it's not weight, it's winter. And what that means here, the SAE is a Society of Automotive Engineers, would you believe? And the 20 relates to the viscosity, how fluid the oil is at lower temperatures. So the lower the number, the less viscous, the more fluid an oil is at colder temperatures. The higher number here, this 50, in this case, relates to the viscosity at higher temperatures. Actually, it's at 100 degrees Celsius. So basically what this means is that the lower the numbers on both of these means that you're getting a better quality oil, a more viscous, a more fluid oil at those temperature ranges. So which is the best one to have in your engine? Well, the safe bet, the honest bet, the safe bet, if you like, is to just go by what's in your owner's manual. Okay, then you'll know that the manufacturer has said, okay, using this oil has been formulated for us, so on and so forth. Now, every oil is going to be slightly different. So let's just say I take this oil, okay? Different weight, I know, but essentially this oil is going to be formulated slightly different to this one. This oil is going to be slightly formulated differently to these two. So essentially, you're going to have different operating qualities of oils. You're going to have different grades of oils as well. So what you don't want to do is start mixing your oils. You don't want to have this in your engine and you want to top it off and you think, okay, I'll just get any old oil and top it off. And keep on running your bike until the next service item. Now, let's just say you're in a bit of a bind somewhere. You've got some kind of little oil leak. You've got a long journey ahead. You're in the middle of nowhere. There are no garages there. You can't service the bike, whatever. You can't fix the bike, but you got to keep on going, right? Could you mix the oils? Well, yes, there's no reason why you can't, especially if you're mixing it with, motor oil, which is designed to operate in engines at particular temperatures. Okay, so it will have the chemical qualities to be able to withstand the demands of what the engine is putting it through. Okay, so you could put any older engine oil. So don't worry about the weight so much, as long as it's an engine oil. Right, okay, could you put anything else, any other kind of oil? Let's just say like a cooking oil. So here's a scenario. You're riding through the desert, you're 200 miles from civilization, and you've got a wild pride of lions that are coming after you and they want to eat your flesh. Basically, yes, I know, ridiculous situation, but there you go. You've got a full tank of petrol, gas, and you can make it to civilization, but you're running a little bit low on your oil. However, in your panniers, in your saddlebags, you have a couple of bottles of good old cooking oil because you've been on a camping trip and you like to cook with cooking oil, right? Could you put this in there? Well, it's completely the wrong type of oil. It's completely the wrong chemical composition, if that's the right way of describing it. So it's not going to have the same qualities, the cooling qualities, the temperature operating qualities as an engine oil. Okay, but could it get you out of a bind? Well, actually, people have experimented with this, would you believe? They put different types of oils through bike engines, car engines, and they've performed well and not so well depending on what the situation has been. But if it's a case of just topping up the oil and getting you out of a bind and getting you to civilization for a couple of 100 miles, then it's well worth a try. However, if you're not being chased by a wild pride of savage lions, flesh-eating lions, then do you know what? It's best to call for a breakdown recovery. Don't go any further, of course. But it's one of those situations. Could you put any kind of oil, any kind of lubricant that has lubricating qualities in your engine, and would it go a little bit further? Well, it might, or unfortunately, you might break down just a few miles down the road, because it all depends how this oil is going to operate in your engine at different temperatures. Will it break down? Will it cool down the engine, lubricate effectively, all this kind of stuff? Okay. But what about mixing it with another grade of oil? Well, actually, that should work. That should be fine. So mixing it with a different grade of oil, especially if it's going to be a lower number here, that would actually work better. So it's going to be more viscous, it's going to be more fluid, it's going to operate better. So why don't we mix our oils all the time? The problem is it comes down to the qualities of the oil, the grade of the oil, the formulation of the oil. For a short period, I'm sure it wouldn't do any damage whatsoever. However, long periods, then you're gonna start messing up with your engine and start creating problems with the engine. And it all comes down to the quality of the oil to be able to lubricate and to be able to dissipate the heat around the engine, but also to take away particulates from inside the engine, and say little metal fragments or little metal bits and pieces, grime ducts, carbon deposits, whatever. It's also about being able to withstand or stave off any kind of rust build up in the engine as well. So there's lots of qualities of an engine oil, and one will perform better than another, let's say. But the most important thing, the overwhelming most important thing, has got to be the actual weight of the oil, the operating temperatures of that oil. So what should you do? Well, for me, let's say I'm just looking ahead for my next service. I've got another couple of thousand miles to go yet, but I thought I'd start getting a few things early here. Now, I was going to go for the other type of oil that they recommend in here, which is a Syn3, which is fully synthetic. It's got the same operating range here, but it's supposed to be better in colder temperatures. Now, that is supposed to be excellent from -1 degrees. This operates from +4 degrees. But do you know what? I've been operating in all sorts of temperatures, and this has been absolutely fine. In fact, in my last service, this has been put in as well. So as I say, whilst I'm not a slave to a particular brand or anything like that, I thought I'd just carry on with it. It hasn't let me down so far. The question is, would you use any other type of oil in your bike? Well, yes, there's no reason why you can't. As long as you're sticking to the same weight, you can just use whatever you want. In fact, in cars, I've used all sorts of engine oils in there. I've even mixed engine oils. I've kept to the same rating, but I've mixed them. It hasn't been an issue. But at the next service item, or shortly afterwards, I've done a full engine oil change, and I've put in just a single type of oil, because effectively that's what you want. Am I saying to you that you've got to use a Suzuki owned brand, a Kawasaki owned brand oil, or whatever they recommend? If you ride a Harley Davidson, you've got to use this 360 oil or a Syn3 oil or whatever. No, I mean, look, I'm sure there's lots of people out there who will say you should and you must and all that kind of stuff. I'm sure there's lots of people who say, hey, look, get this because it makes a nice ornament in the workshop. And it does, I suppose. But that's not really the point. Now, if you look carefully in any owner's manual, it will give you, as I say, the recommended oils. But you might find a little paragraph in there where it actually says, do you know what, you can use other oils. And Harley Davidson, actually in this case, are no different. They actually say that you could use diesel oils, CH4, C14, CJ4. The preferred viscosities are 20W50, 15W50, 10W50. So they are saying, actually, do you know what? You could use other engine oil in the short term just to get you out of a bind. So this religiously sticking to a particular type of oil isn't absolutely necessary. But as I said before, I'm sure there are different oil qualities, lubrication qualities, cooling qualities, all that kind of stuff. It depends on the temperatures at which you're riding as well. How long has the bike been stood for? You know, the normal combustion process, there's going to be water vapor developing. You know, is that water vapor being trapped in the engine? Is there a risk of it freezing? Is there a risk of that causing damage to the engine? You might find that if you've got the wrong type of oil in your engine, or the wrong grade of oil in your engine, that it starts making weird sounds, knocking sounds, all that kind of stuff. Let's say if you've got the wrong type of oil in your engine for cold temperatures, then you might not be able to start the engine there, or you might even damage the engine because there's not enough oil circulating through. So it's just one of those things. You might have to heat up the ambient temperature, let's say. You might have to heat up the room that the bike is sat in just to get the oil running. In fact, even in really cold operating temperatures, what you might find is that some engines, they have to keep running just to keep the engine oil at a certain temperature. If they shut down the engine for any prolonged period of time, what's going to happen is that engine oil becomes too viscous, becomes too thick, and they can't start up the engine again because it's going to, wreck the engine. I'm not saying that, applies to motorcycle engines, of course, but I'm saying that's the general thing that's going on. That's something to consider. So would you put any kind of oil in your bike? Well, clearly not. Yeah, and I'm sure if I put this in, I'd soon start smelling like a fast food outlet. But the point still stands that any kind of oil that has any kind of lubricating quality should work, right? It should work. How can I show you? Aha! Right, so I've got a dirty old tub here. I'm going to pour some in. Let me just move the camera angle so you can see it. Right, so first I'm going to put this 10W40 oil in. All looks sort of fine and dandy, doesn't it? Right, I'm going to put this lawnmower engine 10W40. It's a 40 motor oil. Yeah, and this one's saying it's got high detergent disbursement characteristics. Oh yeah, it's a totally different colour. Look at that. And it's kind of in a different colour as you put it in there. Let me just mix it up. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely mixing up. It's not remaining separated. So look, okay, different types of oil, same grade, same rating, seems to work. Right, let me put in some vegetable oil. I can already tell this is a lot thinner. Definitely pulled out a little bit, but even so, you know, it's just made the whole oil a lot more less viscous, more fluid. But you know what? It's not that bad. I mean, it's still operating okay. So, look, it's not exactly science, is it? But look, I think you can see that it's still oil. You know, it's still maintaining all the qualities. So I think if you're mixing oils, I don't think you're going to do a lot of damage in the short term. Okay. In the long term, yeah, I don't think it's a good idea. Of course it isn't. But look, I'm sure there's been lots of engineers out there, lots of oil experts out there who can give us good information in the comments below why you shouldn't use different oils and all that kind of stuff. So look, if you're watching the video and you know, and you're in the know, let us know. Yeah, for everybody to know, you know. So I'm certainly not here trying to tell you one oil is better or this is a good process. All I'm just showing you, actually, it all mixes together. It's all oil. In the short term, I'm sure it'll be relatively fine. In the long term, yeah, that's another matter. Is it a good idea? No, of course it isn't a good idea. Just stick to the same rating. Just stick to the same rating, the same weight, to the winter weight, you know, the lower numbers, all that sort of stuff. That's what you want, really. But if it's a case of a particular brand, well, I think that's open for debate. I mean, let us know in the comments what you think about this. And, you know, I've read so much over the years, actually, about different types of engine oil and how religious people are about a specific type of oil. And then when you come to probe exactly why they are so specific about that oil, there isn't really a good enough answer. It's just because I prefer that oil. That's fine. If you prefer that oil, that's absolutely fine. From a layman's point of view, from the average rider's point of view, I couldn't tell you which is better than another oil. I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you why that Sin 3 is better than this 360. All I know is that in the book, it's telling me that it's better for lower temperatures. It's a better all-round oil as dictated by the book, but I couldn't actually say why. So I think there's a lot of people out there who would try and tell you use this oil because it's better. Now it could be that it's just cheaper, it's more economical, it's better value, and I fully understand that. In fact, you know, I'm all for that. But what I found with this particular oil, when I was looking at compatible oils, actually for the same weight and grade, and looking at a brand name in particular, they were coming around about the same price, would you believe? Now, if let's say I went for, you know, Joe Blogg's oil, as it were, I'm sure I could have got it a lot cheaper. But let's be under no illusion, you know, I think the grading would be different. So, would I have a problem in putting Joe Blogg's oil in my engine? No, I wouldn't, but I wouldn't want to run it for thousands and thousands of miles. If I had to just top off the oil until I could get to a next service station, to a next service interval, yeah, sure. But not to run the bike all the time. So I think, you know, you've got a big investment in your engine, your motorcycle engine, your car engine, whatever it is. So, you know, this is a very small expense when it comes to protecting the engine, right? So I think, you know, you probably want to put the best in that you can, or what you feel is the best one anyway. Let us know in the comments what you think is the best, why it's the best. any ideas why it performs better, all that kind of stuff. It'd be interesting for me to hear as well, because I say, you know, I just kind of stick with the weighting. I stick with basic decent brand oils, but as long as it performs okay, as long as you do regular oil changes, I think that's the key thing. You know, do regular oil changes, oil filter changes. That's going to be much better than worrying about which is going to be the best oil for you. So you had to wait right to the end of the video for that pearl of wisdom. Right, anyway, catch you on the next video. Don't forget to subscribe, all that kind of stuff. Ta-da!